get some sounds here.
The highlight of this room to me is this amp wall here. And if you could just sort of break it down for me.
So I built this amp wall recently, and I didn't build it. A really good friend of mine and a great engineer and producer and master woodworker, Kenny Varga, here in Nashville. He built this cabinet for me. We spec'd it out the size just to kind of not make it too tall. I didn't want it to feel like it was falling over on me. But the whole idea is that I love amplifiers. And when I've ever seen big studios or people that have cartage rigs that bring them into the studio, they always have these wonderful cabinets. Now, this wouldn't leave the house. It is on wheels, which is cool though. But I wanted something that could be more permanent to where I could have the workflow of using these amps. Because when I'm tracking something, they are instruments to me. They all have their own personal flavor. And the only thing I needed really to complete it was an amp switcher. That's what the Kahayan is here. Now there's other amp switchers on the market, but this one was the one that spoke to me the most. Kenny built me this little rack for it. There's another rack under the desk he built. He really set me up. And the speakers essentially are my aux boxes. I don't have any live cabinets anywhere in the house. Now, fingers crossed, someday I'll have a bunker that I can do that with, but we can't all be Tim Pierce, right, Tim? No. That's why Tim is Tim. He is the godfather, and man, just an inspiration top to bottom. But I can turn this stuff on. Let's turn some amps on.
Yeah.
And let's turn up some stuff here. So we're gonna go to 1. So I have them going like kind of 1 through 8. I don't have 8 total. I have 6. That one is my live amp, so I don't really hook it up because it's, I got to disconnect everything.
Sure.
But if I want any variety of amp, whether it's like a nice sort of mid-rangey, sort of like great Larry Carlton, sort of Robin Fordish sort of thing. So in my workflow, if I'm saying, well, I want a clean amp that I want to use with pedals, I might use my 2-rock, nice clean sound. And I can add any of my pedals like I normally would. And it gives me the same experience that I would have pretty much, in a studio cranked up. Now I can switch between any of those amps I want. If I can go to 2, I can get the Marshall.
Wow.
Straight 100 watts from 1973, all harnessed by the aux, essentially. I just blew a fuse. I think I reached the limit of it's gotta be no more than 3 amps on at one time. If I want to start out with sort of a clean-ish sort of sound and add my pedals, I might start with my 2-rock TS1, that's in Bay 1, and I just click 1 there, and we're good to go. Then I can hook pedals up and anything I want to add to it. And I'm good to go. And then if I want to do, another track and jump over to the Marshall, we're fired up, we're ready to go. Standby, of course. Here we go. Now I can do over here too, if you want to swing around, you know, this is the aux app, so I have different things I can, you know, add. I can do the Marshall here and add some room sound. So lots of options, which is really, really nice to have. A lot of times what I do though is just leave myself one cabinet option, because when you're in a studio, you're only using one cabinet usually, and you kind of tweak to taste. So that's an important thing to think about. But I could go over to the divided by, which will give me more of like sort of a Vox meets a Marshall sort of thing. This is an RSA 23, really cool amp. So obviously we can keep going from there, but I can fire any of those amps up and do that. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, and then of course still have my pedals that I can use, or I can hook up a different board. I'm a pedal kind of fanatic. I love using them just because I think there's something great about knobs still that I love.
Yeah.
But there you have it. That's kind of how I use that. And even if I wanted to program another aux to do different cabinets, I can hit speaker 2. So it's a lot of flexibility without having a live cabinet in the room, and still sounds. I've never had a complaint from any producer that I've ever sent tracks from with this rig.
Oh yeah.
Even before I built the fancy cabinet and all that stuff in here, it was always aux stuff, and they always liked it.